On the morning of June 6, 1944, thousands of young men of the 4th Infantry Division set foot on Utah Beach. They carried not only their fear and determination, but also the equipment and uniforms that would accompany them into history. Every canteen, every cartridge belt, every uniform was part of that day's story. Today we'll take a closer look at what they wore and what they carried when they stormed Utah Beach. It's June 6, 1944. Operation Overlord starts in northern France. 5 beaches would become the gates of liberation: Sword, Juno, Gold, Omaha, and Utah. It was the westernmost landing sector in Normandy. On D-Day, it was stormed by the U.S. 4th Infantry Division. Their objective was to secure the beach and the main causeways, push inland, and link up with the paratroopers of the 82nd and 101st Airborne. Against German defenses and the dangers of the sea, the 4th Infantry made history here, opening the way for the Allied advance into France. To understand their story, we will step into the shoes of one of those 4th Infantry Division soldiers. We start with the basic infantryman equipment. Each soldier carried between 2 and 4 Mk2 grenades, and also a very important piece of the equipment, the first aid kit. Issued to every soldier, it contained a Carlisle small first aid dressing packed in simple cardboard. The next element is the Model 1918 canteen with its canvas cover. It also included a metal cup, allowing soldiers to drink directly or even heat small rations. In order to carry more ammunition, they wore these cloth bandoliers with extra clips. However, the main ammunition was stored in the 1928 model cartridge belt, specially designed for the 30-06 ammunition. The belt had a double snap system, a main button that locked with a click, and a flap over it for extra security. Now we move on to the Haversack itself, the main pack carried by every infantryman. It was designed to carry the soldier's essentials: the mess kit in its outer pocket, the entrenching tool strapped just behind it, and the main bag for rations, clothing, and personal items. Compact but versatile, the Haversack or 1928 pack allowed infantrymen to carry everything they needed for combat and daily life on the front lines. Attached on the left side is the bayonet for the M1 Garand rifle. Carried in its scabbard, it could be fixed to the rifle for close combat, but was just as often used as a multi-purpose field tool. Let's open the mess tin pouch or compartment. Inside we find the standard US Army mess kit, a metal pan carried by every infantryman. Once opened, it reveals 2 of the 3 basic utensils, a knife and a fork. The spoon was often kept separate since it was the piece most frequently used in daily life, commonly used with the canteen cup. Made of aluminum, the mess tin had 2 parts, a deep section with a folding handle used as a pan or plate, and a shallow divided tray for separating rations. We can see here the last 4 digits of the laundry number of the soldier who owned this haversack. One of the most complicated parts of the haversack is removing the straps on the mess tin pack to be unfastened. These web straps were made of heavy canvas and fastened tightly with metal hooks and keepers, holding the mess kit firmly in place during the march. Unfastening them took a few moments, but it kept the equipment from rattling or getting lost while moving under fire. Behind this pouch we find another essential item, the entrenching tool or shovel. The M1943 shovel was carried on the haversack inside this canvas cover. It clipped on using these metal fasteners, sliding securely into the webbing but released quickly when the shovel was needed. If you're interested in the full story, I've already published a short video comparing the 2 shovels issued to US troops during World War II. You'll find the link on the comments. What I'm showing here is not the full haversack, but the smaller combat pack. This was designed to carry only what a soldier needed to survive 24 to 48 hours in the field, like for Normandy landings. Since I've already unstrapped the mess kit and the entrenching tool, we now move to the body of the pack itself. To open it, the main binding straps are released one by one. Each strap had to be pulled back through its buckle, which kept the load tight and prevented anything from shifting while marching. Once the bindings were undone, the outer flap could be folded down, revealing the central storage space. Typical items included several K-ration boxes. Don't ask me, I don't know why I packed the spoon here. A ditty bag with toiletry with toothbrush, towel and soap, extra clothes, 2 or 3 extra pairs of socks, and you could add a wool sweater. A blanket was often added, stored inside the pack or rolled around, while the raincoat could either be worn, slung over the cartridge belt, or folded under the flap as well. I decided not to include it here, as we'll see it in another video. In short, the combat pack was light, practical, and meant for immediate use during tactical operations. This is the M7 waterproof rubber bag, originally issued to carry the M5 gas mask. It was widely used by US airborne troops, Rangers, and the infantry divisions that landed in the first waves on D-Day. However, once ashore, soldiers quickly realized there would be no chemical warfare, Most discarded the mask kit altogether or repurposed the bag itself as a waterproof pouch to keep personal items dry. The bag closed with a simple but secure system. The top edge was folded down several times and then fastened tightly with snap buttons, sealing its contents against water and sand. Practical and often far more useful as storage than as a gas mask carrier. The M6 gas mask bag is designed to carry the M3 lightweight service gas mask. During the Normandy landings, both gas mask sets were in use. The M5 mask with the M7 waterproof carrier, which we have already seen, and this one. For the general display, I have chosen to show the M6 carrier, but both models were actually issued and can be seen in period photographs of the D-Day landings. For footwear, most of infantrymen in Normandy wore the standard leather boots, known as Type 2 service boots. To protect the lower legs and keep mud and debris out of the shoes, these were worn with M1938 canvas leggings or gaiters. The laces secured tightly around the ankle and calf, giving support and helping prevent snagging in rough terrain. One of the most striking items of the assault equipment was the inflatable flotation belt, officially called the Life Preserver. Supplied by the US Navy, it was issued to troops taking part in amphibious operations such as the D-Day landings. The belt carried 2 CO2 cartridges that could quickly inflate it by pressing the metal switches printed with arrows, as indicated in the instructions stamped on the canvas. To inflate, squeeze arrows together with a hard, quick grip and release. In case of failure, it could still be inflated manually through the 2 rubber valves. The metal buckle housing the cartridges is marked USN, a reminder of its naval origin. Unfortunately, many soldiers wore the belt around the waist, and with the heavy combat load, this often caused them to flip face down in the water. In fact, the belt was meant to be worn high, under the armpits, so that it could keep the soldier afloat safely. From my own experience, inflating this belt manually through the rubber valves is actually easier than it looks. It fills up quite quickly with just a few breaths. And once inflated, the belt can be adjusted perfectly to the wearer's size using its simple metal buckle. It was a simple piece of equipment, but compact and potentially life-saving during the dangerous approach to the beaches. The standard uniform of the American infantrymen on D-Day was the M1937 wool service uniform. This consisted of wool trousers and a matching wool shirt, designed in the interwar years and widely issued during the war. It was warm and durable, but not always the most comfortable option for the heat of summer or the wet conditions of Normandy. Over this wool uniform, soldiers of the 4th Infantry Division often wore the HBT combat uniform in Normandy. The second model of herringbone twill fatigues in the darker olive drab shade known as OD7. This 2-piece set, a jacket and trousers, was originally designed as a work uniform, but by 1944 it had become standard combat wear, especially in the Pacific and some ETO units. The HBT fabric added protection, provided extra pockets, and shielded the wool from mud and seawater. The combination of the wool M37 undergarments with the OD7 HBT fatigues gave soldiers both flexibility and practicality, making it the typical appearance of the 4th Infantry Division as they stormed Utah Beach on June 6, 1944. The iconic M1 steel helmet was the standard head protection for every US soldier. It consisted of an outer steel pot and an inner fiber liner. For the 4th Infantry Division, a distinctive detail was the use of a medium square netting, typically 3/4-inch mesh in either dark green or brown. This netting was not just for camouflage, it also helped secure natural foliage or scrim for better concealment and prevented the helmet from glinting in the sun, a simple but effective addition to the soldier's essential gear. And finally, the weapon that defined the American infantrymen in World War II, the M1 Garand, or what General Patton himself called it, the greatest battle implement ever devised, a true symbol of the American fighting man on D-Day and throughout the war. As we watch these historic images of troops landing on Utah Beach, I invite you to continue exploring this channel. On screen, you'll find a link to my other in-depth video about the Soviet infantry uniform, as well as a playlist dedicated entirely to the US Army in World War II. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me keep bringing you more history and living history displays. And of course, feel free to leave any question or comment you may have. I'll be more than happy to read and respond. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.